Whatever it was he did to you, and whatever it was you did, be free of it.
Hey, my name is Josh Corvus and I'm here as ever to discuss all things story. In this video, we're looking at Rings of Power episode 6. We got action, we got character development, we learned a lot about how the show delivers significant story moments, which will also give us valuable insight into what to expect from the story as we advance. Let's take a quick look at the breakdown. We begin with Adar planting seeds, then his rousing speech to the orcs, which encompasses a sense of the journey they've been on together. That journey is something I'm pretty interested to. I think Adar is a great character, and their journey, or a journey led by him, of these orcs travelling from a distant land to Mordor or the Southlands, is one I'd be interested in. This moment of Adar planting seeds also parallels Arondir's later seed planting with Bronwyn, and that's not a euphemism. Two scenes that demonstrate these elves are opposed only by perspective. Our first story moment is discovering the ancient watchtowers held together by a single rope, a flaw in design Arondir uses to bury the attacking orcs under rubble. Fleeing Southlanders hole up in a village just down the road. They obviously decided they didn't want to travel too far, it being late in the night and everything. Galadriel's relatability meter nudges further into the positive for me in her discussion with Isildur and then Elendil as they approach Middle-earth. Any time they can give Galadriel a sense of age and wisdom beyond that single need for revenge, it really adds to our investment in her. If Queen Regent Muriel is only going to say things like "make haste" and "here's your king," it seems her presence in this fellowship only avoids Pharazôn enslaving her via marriage, which I understand to be Tolkien lore. The orcs stage their first attack on the Southlanders village, which Arondir narrowly survives despite getting an orc blood facial, and despite there only being orcs in all the shots we see of the attacking orcs. We are led to believe half of the attacking orcs were the Southlanders who defected in the previous episode, when they clearly were just swapped in as dead bodies after the fight. The second attack by real orcs is the killer, literally. Bronwyn narrowly survives a very bloody and hasty cauterized surgery, and we discover the writers were all out of ideas when it came to Arondir hiding ancient and powerful relics. As the villagers brace themselves to be bloodily butchered, Galadriel and Halbrand ride into town with the sun on their backs. It looks gorgeous and impressive. The orcs are bloodily dispatched while Galadriel with Halbrand capture Adar as he attempts to escape with the cloth previously known to have been wrapped around the ancient sword hilt. We subsequently learn the writers had no interest in Galadriel checking to see what was so crucial inside the cloth, previously known to have contained the ancient sword hilt, and we learn the only thing separating Adar and Galadriel is perspective, and possibly that Galadriel is morally ruined even beyond Adar, which was a nice touch, I thought. Galadriel and Halbrand acknowledged this show would have been much better if it had just been about them marauding across Middle-earth, and we discover a power that binds them both. Now, I'm interested that Galadriel acknowledges Halbrand's power, but doesn't question where it comes from. I'm also grateful for the modern trend in cinema that demonstrates women don't need to kiss a man to feel complete. Very grateful for that. Galadriel's character arc is now my favourite part of the show, a character arc that was seriously undermined by its very flat beginning and the 3 episodes it was forced to tread water in Numenor. Theo unwraps the cloth and we discover Adar swapped out the hilt, and Waldreg has taken it back to the watchtower. Let us consider that Arondir was stationed in the watchtower for 79 years. He said that in the very first episode. But the writers never had him bother to mention the large plinth with the obvious keyhole in it beneath the statue of the ancient sword. Nor did the writers worry about having him consider the plinth immediately below the sword might serve some purpose connected to the sword, or to ponder the bloody great sword-shaped keyhole in the plinth. The writers never seemed to consider foreshadowing this might increase audience investment and generate some story stakes for both the Southlanders and the viewing audience. Instead, the writers had nobody mention the plinth because the reveal had to be kept secret. With only hasty direction from Adar and no apparent knowledge of the plinth, the writers have Waldreg use a sword in the keyhole to unlock the dam, just like that. The dam is unlocked, waters flood down through the open plains and through the tunnels, The writers had the orcs build without giving the audience any sense of their purpose. They were just there, their purpose never foreshadowed. Arondir's attempt to escape the tunnels in episode 3 never shows Mount Doom in the background, or the fact that any hint that the tunnels were heading towards that area of the Southlands. The audience gets no chance to invest in figuring the purpose of these tunnels for this scene to pay off beyond spectacle. So we behold lots of water churning through the complex and lengthy tunnel system that improbably funnels directly into Mount Doom. The water and lava mixed together results in a pyroclastic explosion. That is a known phenomenon in modern science. Probably not a phenomenon known well enough to be exploited in the second age of Middle-earth. Mount Doom floods the Southlands with a deadly fast-flowing pyroclastic cloud of superheated lava and gases. The village of Southlanders, soldiers, horses, Queen Muriel, Halbrand, Galadriel, Elendil and Isildur are quickly consumed by the superheated onslaught. The final image of Galadriel realizing she'd been outdone by modern science, transposed by writers into a Middle Ages tale without any context or setup, was, even then, still powerful. There was a genuine awe in her character for Adar's duplicity as she confronted the incoming blast. It seems some magic saves her because we know she survives, when clearly she shouldn't. I'd have liked to have seen Galadriel incanting something if she is to author her salvation, her own salvation from the blast. As a spectacle, this episode was impressive. If you're also here to be involved in a story, you are all out of luck. So let's look at one issue specific to this episode, and then the problem of the writers using repeated sleight of hands to reveal key story points. Starting with blood and the volume of it in this episode, Rings is staged as a family show. Save maybe for an orc licking a bloody knife, the show has been chiefly blood and gore free. In the last episode, episode 5, they even refused to show Rowan being killed by Waldreg. None of that concern here, from Arondir's bloody facial, Bronwyn leaking and dripping all over the pub floor, blood spurting from sword wounds, swords piercing bodies. It was entirely out of context with the other episodes, and it was jarring. More problematic is the show's desire to keep significant plot points secret until the moment they're revealed. From the sleight of hand trying to convince us the attacking orcs were Southlanders, to the sleight of hand tricking us into thinking the sword hilt was recovered from Adar, the sleight of hand that nobody checked the sword hilt after it was retrieved from Adar, the sleight of hand hiding the fact there was a large plinth beneath the watchtower sword with a bloody great keyhole in it, to the sleight of hand hiding any purpose to the tunnels. This number of gimmicks distances the audience from any emotional involvement they would otherwise invest if these threads were foreshadowed. A good story is not built on cheap parlour tricks. Good storytelling gives the audience enough information to speculate the outcome, to judge a character's worth and relate to the characters. Clever writing dances and skips over and around the narrative to pull back the curtain on a revelation the audience had most of the information to resolve but couldn't. And then that revelation is not just a spectacle, but also has the audience stood next to Galadriel, slack-jawed at the incoming rush of the superheated lava. So now we know this is storytelling by stealth, what can we predict? For a start, I was wrong about the lack of the tunnel foreshadowing. It was foreshadowed in the single scene in episode 5 where Adar has the orc expose his skin to the sun. The orc first states the tunnel is complete, and then Adar intimates the sun will soon be gone. That's your foreshadowing. I talked about this scene in last week's video because it was a scene with no story purpose. It was just a moment to remind us Adar existed. We now know it was also the kind of scene the writers love to bury foreshadowing. The first scene like this that springs to mind is Pharasohn's support for Queen Muriel's quest to Middle-earth. In that scene we learn his support is based on his plans to profit from Muriel's endeavours. Now that endeavour has failed, everything seems aligned for Pharasohn to now wrest Numenor from the absent and possibly deceased Queen Muriel. And Pharasohn becoming king is actually Tolkien lore. Another scene that seemed to carry some weight that we might find significant later is Halbrand's confession to Galadriel. He states fighting beside Galadriel liberated him from his past deeds, a feeling he wanted to bind his very being to. That sounds quite a subservient statement, more Witch King than Sauron, if we're still thinking he might be one of them. I'll be interested to see whether the magic that saves Galadriel will apply to the whole village. A pyroclastic flow is what did for 16,000 people in and around Pompeii. It hit Pompeii so fast, many of the bodies were instantly mummified. There would have to be some kind of wild explanation to have all the key characters pick themselves out of the glowing embers of the village. One that hopefully doesn't involve eagles. Okay, it's time for me to shut up now. I hope you found this video informative. Let me know if you have any thoughts or alternative ideas for where this is going. I'd love to hear from you. If you could, I'd also appreciate a like. It's the only way YouTube will ever know I'm here. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.